Yes, this is a little long video, but if you are trying to get to know small millets, then this is a great place for you to start because they are explained here by Dr. Khadar, who is the millet man himself. Dr. Khadar is the reason small millets are rising in popularity today. But if you already know a little bit about small millets and are trying to know certain details, then you can look at the description where the content is given along with the time code. Welcome to the world of small millets, to the world of good health, the science and art of living that is sustainable both for you and the planet. Hello everyone. To understand Dr. Khadar's health protocols, we have to understand small millets because they form one of the key pillars to his health maintaining and disease reversing protocols. Folks, this is a channel that is supported by Dr. Khadar, where we organize wellness webinars and exchange a lot of information on how we can be healthy by relying on food, the right foods. If you would like to join, you can hop on to our Facebook group, Health Through Sustainability, or if you like reading, you can subscribe to my blog, the links for both of which are provided in the description below. So what are small millets? Small millets are actually types of grasses with small seeds, and they are known as cereal crops or grains. So clearly they fall in the group of food called carbohydrates. Let's look at some pictures of millets. Pearl millet, finger millet, little millet, great millet, barnyard millet, kodo millet, foxtail millet, proso millet. Clearly, there are different kinds of millets. The small millets are also known as siridhanya, and they are being brought into limelight by Dr. Khadar, who is now also known as the Millet Man of India. Let's ask Dr. Khadar himself why he's spreading information on small millets with such fervor. Why are they so important?
Simply because the health benefits of these 5 millets, kodo, foxtail, barnyard, brown top, and little millet, are so good that we were able to experimentally help so many persons like HIV patients, diabetic patients, BP patients, thyroid patients, cancer patients. The wellness that they are procuring using these grains as their staple food is, in fact, I don't like the word magic or miracle, but they are almost short of that. It's magical, it's miraculous. The suffering just vanishes away in a matter of 6 months to 2 years. And all these diseases are labeled as incurable and only manageable by the present today so-called allopathic world, or even other systems of medicines have completely failed to give the full wellness to the patients. So when we have found out experimentally that these miracle grains, people call me miracle man, magic man, all that. These are very scientifically proven experimental acts. I use the word act because it is done in a large scale in the real world, not in the so-called laboratories of pharmaceutical companies. There is absolutely so much to do things in real world. It takes enormous amount of courage and planning because the establishment right now has declared diabetes gangrenous patients to be a guinea pig in the amputation table. I mean, absolutely merciless in the name of science and progress. That's all they can offer. We are just changing the food that they have been eating so far to these wonderful grains. We're able to give them wellness. And why do you think I should not go ahead and do with the fervor that I'm doing? Because this is, according to me, the food for future. And so the human race has missed the definition of food all along. So we have missed the bus. And I feel so excited that we have found something, these 5 grains. And I don't mean there are only 5 grains. There may be many more. And I am so clear that the definition of this future food is simple, that it has to maintain the glucose balance and it has to encourage the condition of our microbial gut microbes. And then third, the most important, is the fiber to carbohydrate ratio. That is, carbohydrate by fiber has to be in single digits. That's when this magic happens. And we have figured that out. And so I'm excited. And in fact, often I feel I am not doing enough to get going. So, in fact, we all should get going. Get going. It's not just me alone. Everyone who has experienced this wonderful health benefits should do with a lot more fervor than I am doing, because I am a scientist. So I have to wait till I completely do things. So it took me 20 years. So it's, if we want to save the future, all the human race should stop eating the so-called food that they have been promoting. This food corporate world has been promoting this industrial food. I call it industrial food. It is not a real food. It is not naturally grown. It is artificial. I believe I am actually doing much less than what I should have been doing.
So it is clear why Dr. Khadar is promoting the small millets the way he is. Amputation centers need not multiply as they are now, because now we have seen and know that diabetes is reversible. Gangrenous conditions are reversible because there is a food that can help us reverse these, and these are the small millets. But for now, let us ask Dr. Khadar if small millets are new foods, a new health fad, or have they been around for a long time?
Yes, these are ancient grains. In fact, Bible, of course, 2000 years is not ancient. We have references much earlier in our literature, in Indian literature. But just for the world, because the world knows the Bible more than our literature. The Christ supposed to have eaten the grows in 60 days and absorbing the moisture in the atmosphere. And that fits exactly the brown top millet and closely to the foxtail millet. You see, and what more reference you want? It is the ancient grain. Jesus Christ ate this unleavened bread. He ate brown top millet or foxtail millet bread and porridge from these grains.
The proof that small millets are ancient can also be found, as with so many other things, in the temples of India.
The references and literature, how do we cook these things, even dating back to 3,000, 4,000 years ago. In fact, if you come and see our temples, the sculptures clearly manifest what we are talking about. The grains that the girls are holding in their festival moods there in the walls of the temples all clearly indicate to these wonderful small millets. The shape and the structure.
Today we know of 5 varieties of small millets, but this is what Dr. Khadar says of the possibility of more.
Down the road, find out more grains. In fact, I have one more grain on my hand right now. I have to do these experiments.
There are other varieties of small millet just waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. At least 100 more are there.
Wow.
At least 100 more are there all throughout the planet.
Throughout the planet. Right. And it seems like Africa is the home to many of these.
No, there is a big problem with all the people in the world. Everyone says Africa is Africa. I don't believe that. Everywhere it is there. Why? Germany was there. No. This particular statements, people keep talking. I have seen in many different dimensions, different places. Oh, Africa is the origin. Absolutely not. That's all because of this so-called evolutionary theory that it has all started somewhere there. I don't believe that it is true. Everything was there everywhere. It's just that some things were not there in that place, some things were here in that place. So you cannot expect in Canada little millet. You cannot expect maple tree in South Africa. So it's all not true. It's not that everything has come from Africa. Absolutely not. I mean, we human beings, I don't believe that people have come from Africa. No, we are from India. We are from India. They are from Alaska. They are from Alaska. A fellow from Alaska is not taken origin from Africa. No, absolutely not. I don't believe that. And it is there everywhere. No, there is a natural abundance of things, diversity of things, despite having a mono atmosphere like as Alaska, even in that small variations, you find diversity in the fauna and flora. So, of course, places like India, it's much more diverse. And I personally believe it's not just having enough knowledge. We have the references and literature. How do we cook these things? Even dating back to 3,000, 4,000 years ago. All these examples and the evidences are there, and to credit everything to Africa somewhere, some down the road. This is all that so-called Darwin evolutionary theories, which are absolutely theories. They are not even proven anyway. So all these things are there everywhere. Little millet, African millet is called. They were eating, but I have had little millet sama all over India. So in South India, it is called samalo. In North India, some kungni, kutki. You go to Gujarat, some other name. What it means? We were not connected. So thousands of years, people have been using it. And I can take you to one of my BR hills here, Soligaru. They don't have any connection to the world, and they're eating that same food that I'm talking about, and they have been eating for time immemorial. Absolutely. So they don't know where Africa is. Even today, they don't know where Africa is.
So, small millets are grains that have grown not just in any one part of the world, but everywhere. United States grows a variety of small millets called brown top, which is fed to the birds. So the question is, if these are such ancient grains eaten by humans, how come we have forgotten them?
Everything was there. It is just that we have been discarding them due to industrial food culture, step by step. And these so-called scientists, especially the corporate scientists, have been, I think, basic reason for us to get rid of all this. I personally know these corporate cultures. They sit in the boardrooms and start planning to make their products go everywhere rather than encourage the local food cultures. So it is just that your way of using it and how human race has been selectively doing things for various other reasons, for convenience, for business, for whatever. We also choose to grow more things. See, now in India we have mangoes and mango brews, like that, mango plantations. So there should not have been so many mango trees. But human race, particular generations, have chosen to grow mango trees in thousands and thousands. And the same thing with sugar cane. Sugar cane in nature is not available in abundance. It's a short 1 year plant which grows once in a while in some forests here and there. But all over the world now, 18% to 23% of the land is completely given to sugarcane. Yeah. That's because human beings have chosen as an industrial crop. So all these reasons over the time period happens. And so I think we have missed the bus for some two important reasons. That the human greed has been trying to make everything manageable so that people are all dependent on this corporate culture.
So, what industrial or commercial crop are we choosing to grow instead of small millets? It is the grain or grains that your doctor advises you stop eating when your HbA1c levels shoot up or you're declared pre-diabetic or diabetic. Yes, wheat and rice. There is massive push given to growing wheat and rice everywhere on the planet today, whether the area is geographically suited to growing it or not. There is reason to believe that this is happening because of the push by companies that are making synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and genetic modified crops. Wheat and rice involve the use of all three of these. 97% of the millets grown worldwide grow in developing countries, and for good reason. Small millets have a very short growing cycle and they are very productive grains. Most of them are ready for harvest in 3 months and use just a fraction of the water required to grow wheat and rice. It takes 28,000 liters of water to make 1 kilogram of sugar, 10,000 liters to make the same amount of wheat, 8,000 liters for rice, and it takes only 200 liters of water to make 1 kilogram of small millets. Farmers in the developing world are being pushed to displace millets, which are easy to grow and naturally resistant to pests, with wheat and rice that are resource intensive, involving huge amounts of fertilizers, pesticides, and water. As a result, the farmers are taking on huge debts which they cannot pay, and this has become the reason for large scale suicides observed in farmers in the developing world. Coming back to carbohydrates, it's important that we spend a few minutes in trying to understand this food group well so we know the role it plays in both health and disease. All carbohydrates break down into glucose in the body, and glucose is a basic need of every cell in the body because it is a source of energy. Glucose is a form of sugar, and the other forms are sucrose and fructose.
Ultimately, everything that we eat, you eat rice or whether you eat brown top millet, the starch and carbohydrates have to be digested into smaller units and ultimately converted to glucose, because it is the glucose that gets burned and releases ATP into our system, which is then used as biological energy. So the chemical energy has to be transformed into biological energy, and it goes through glucose. Ultimately, it is the glucose that is the central character.
But sugar is not the only thing present in carbohydrates. They are in fact made of three components: sugars, starch, and fiber. Depending on how much of each is present in a food, it is classified as a simple carbohydrate or a complex carbohydrate. For example, in sugar, there is no starch or fiber, so it is a simple carbohydrate. Processed foods which don't have fiber are also simple carbohydrates, whereas whole grains, which have fiber plus the starch and sugars, are called complex carbohydrates. Fruits with skin are also complex carbohydrates. The amount of these three also changes in food, both grains and fruits and vegetables, as they grow and become ripe. The difference in the foods that are called carbohydrates is in how fast they get broken down in the body. That is, how quickly the glucose is released when we eat them. This also helps in assigning a value to foods called the glycemic index. So, foods that are low in glycemic index are generally simple carbohydrates, which are higher in sugars and break down faster. Whereas foods that have high glycemic index are generally complex carbohydrates, which are rich in fiber, which is of two kinds, soluble and insoluble. Soluble fiber dissolves in the body, whereas insoluble fiber does not. The other things that make a difference to the speed at which carbohydrates turn into glucose in our body is the type of starch that is present in the carbohydrate or the food we eat. Some starches are rapid digesting starches. That means they break down into glucose sooner than the slow digesting starches. Examples of rapid digesting are white rice and all purpose flour, whereas slow digesting starches are the millets and whole grains that we eat. Resistant starch is a kind of starch that does not break down fully and is not absorbed in the blood, but they turn into what's called short chain fatty acids by intestinal bacteria, about which we will talk later. So, what stands out is that we need to eat complex carbohydrates, that is, whole grains. But if you are diabetic, then you know that even after eating whole grains, whole wheat, whole rice, your diabetes, your condition does not disappear. But people who have been eating small millets are successfully able to get rid of diabetes in a matter of a few months. Clearly, not all fiber is the same. Small millets are unique in that their fiber is rich in nutrients, but it is also unique in terms of the way it is laid out within the grain. That is, the design or the structure of the fiber within the grain. Let's hear Dr. Khadar.
Each grain has its structural differences between carbohydrate of rice, wheat, and the small millets. And the difference is the fiber, how it is entangled with the carbohydrate so that it can do the job of regulating the release. And to create glucose slowly and steadily into our blood stream is the great regulation that these wonderful five grains have got themselves into readily available in that condition. So that's how they become great food for human race, because they release glucose slowly and steadily into the bloodstream. And this is a fundamental structural characteristic of these grains.
This is a structure of a whole wheat grain, and all the fiber in this lies on the outside of the grain. The fiber is also the part that carries most of the nutrition in wheat. This is a structure of a millet grain. The nutrient-rich fiber is not only present in larger quantities than wheat and rice on the outside, but unlike in wheat and rice, some fiber is found in the inside as well, integrated with the endosperm.
Fiber has nutritional values because they hoard vitamins, thiamine, niacin. You see the list that I have given you.
Small millets have protein. They have micronutrients, which are vitamins, minerals, trace elements, and they have what are called phytochemicals. Phytonutrients are being increasingly recognized today as those factors that help us in many ways, including preventing cancer and in slowing down the aging process.
They are having that fiber does this trick, and the structure of it is intercalated deep into the grain. Of course, the outer layers are the lignan nature, but as we see structure of the rice and wheat, there is only on the surface you have the fiber, whereas these five grains have got deep into the grain, the fiber incorporated. Of course, the center of the grain endosperm, till that we have the fiber. So the fiber content keeps reducing as it goes into the side, but still there is fiber in the center. That's why even after you make these small millets flour, you still need to soak the flour also, because the fiber has to absorb the water to get cooked. You have to soak the grain. Unlike rice and wheat, you just put it in boiling water, it gets cooked because it is complete carbohydrate. There is no fiber whatsoever.
Yes.
And that's the difference.
So now we understand how important fiber in grains is for us. And we are also now beginning to see that the structure and the layout of the fiber in the grain is equally important, because together they affect how fast glucose is released in our body. The fiber in small millets makes sure that glucose is released slowly and steadily in the body. Now, let us see what other wonderful things the fiber of these small millets does for us.
And the content of fiber in itself has a lot of important value for us to get rid of the toxic morbid waste that we create in each and every biological reaction.
What is this toxic morbid waste from biological reactions? Let us try and understand this so we can understand how fiber comes into the picture. When we take in carbohydrates, it breaks down into glucose, carbon dioxide, and water. The carbon dioxide is released through the process of breathing, and the excess water is also released from the body. It is important to understand that carbon dioxide is a byproduct or result of a normal biological process, the breakdown of carbohydrate in the body. But the body cannot hold on to the carbon dioxide because it will create morbidity or dirt and sickness in the cells. Similarly, when we take in different things via food, drinks, breathing, or skin, knowingly or unknowingly, good or toxic, our body breaks them down and creates biological wastes that need to be thrown out. And this throwing out all the waste and cleaning up the body is done in large part by the fiber. Let's hear Dr. Khadar explain this to us.
That when we burn glucose, the last reaction with oxygen, we release carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide has to come out of our system immediately. And God has designed it like that. So the hemoglobin carried the oxygen, carries the carbon dioxide back, and then through lungs we exhale it out. And even if you keep for more than 2 seconds, we are going to get sick. Carbon dioxide. If you just lock yourself in a garage room with carbon dioxide, you will die in a matter of 10-15 minutes. So that means what? Every biological reaction is creating some toxic morbid waste. Biological reactions are no exception. So we need to be cleaning that up on a regular basis. So carbon dioxide somehow gets it out because the system is designed. But then what about other metabolic waste that we are accumulating on a slow and steady basis, day by day, minute by minute, each and every biological reaction, because we are living thing, and every day, every second, biological reactions are creating this toxic morbid waste. And that's when this fiber comes into picture. It being soluble and having enough amount in these grains does the job of cleaning of all the organs. And these 5 grains we have figured out, they are good enough to keep our whole body and parts on a regular basis clean enough, such that the health is manifested in each and every cell and each and every moment.
Small millets have both soluble and insoluble fiber to clean our body, and in way larger amounts than in other grains. To understand how much more, let's look at this table. This is the table that gives us the carbohydrate and fiber present in every 100 grams of 12 grains. The first 5 are small millets: foxtail, barnyard, kodo, little, and brown top. And this is pearl millet, finger millet, proso millet, great millet, corn, wheat, and rice. So as we can see that the first row gives the amount of carbohydrate in each of these grains, and the second row gives the amount of fiber in each of them. And we can see that in all the 5 small millets, there is 8 to 12.5 grams of fiber present in every 100 grams of grain, whereas in the rest it is less than 3, with rice at 0.2. And the third row gives us the ratio of the two. That is, when we divide the amount of carbohydrate with the fiber present, this is the number that is obtained, which is called the carbohydrate to fiber ratio. And we can see that in all the 5 small millets, this number is less than 10 or in single digits, whereas in the rest, we can see it is much higher, and with wheat and rice at 63.5 and 395 respectively. And this is the reason the carb to fiber ratio is the reason the 5 small millets are called positive grains, whereas the other millets, pearl, proso, and great millet and finger millet, these are called neutral grains, and wheat and rice are negative grains. So the reversal of disease happens when we eat these small millets. Diabetes is seen to be reversed in 3 months eating just small millets. The neutral millets do not aggravate the condition, but they do not remove it either, whereas wheat and rice clearly aggravate, in fact, cause the disease. Even though the carb to fiber ratio of corn is 24.5, it is a recognized allergen today because of all the genetic modifications. The high carb to fiber ratio in wheat and rice, they are also problematic because of the increasing genetic modifications taking place in their varieties so that they can be grown everywhere. Wheat is also problematic and causing allergies and diseases because of the increasing gluten content in almost all of the wheat products found today. There is 50 times more gluten in wheat today than there was a few years ago. Most of the wheat products that are sold today are also made out of bleached wheat, which has a chemical that is directly responsible for killing the beta cells in our pancreas. Small millets with the highest amount of dietary fiber and resistant starches, on the other hand, not only provide an excellent insulin response but also keep our heart and colon in great health. They help in lowering the cholesterol, in maintaining the gut lining, providing microbes that together keeps the colon in great working condition and free of disease. The wellness that comes with eating small millets has been studied in renal tolerance tests conducted by Dr. Khadar and also seen in the reversal of many diseases. Let's talk to Dr. Khadar.
I understand. This is a specific test when diabetic patients keep increasing their HbA1c. When there is a patient with HbA1c 8 or to 10, when you feed him any food, because the bloodstream gets the sugar shock, the kidneys have to start releasing the excess glucose into the urine. Otherwise, it's too much. So, despite the liver, pancreas, and other endocrine systems are trying to struggle to deal with the excess glucose, the simple way is to get rid of through urine. That's what it happened. That's what happens. So, when I take a glucose solution, HbA1c patient who has 8 above 8 or 10 will start releasing the glucose in his urine immediately within 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And when he takes with little more fiber, say rice, it will take 45 minutes. Or then if you have little more, so finger millet, because of 3% fiber, it will take 1 more hour or so. So if a sick patient like HbA1c above 8 or up to 10 starts taking these grains porridge, you can collect the urine. It's a easy test, quick test to figure out whether your grain has the capacity to hold back the glucose without releasing into the bloodstream sooner than later. So when you do the test, so you don't need laboratories, you don't need anything. Just you need patients coming to my clinic. I give them this for a few days, ragi for a few days. This ask them to make porridge and then collect the urine and then check the glucose. They themselves do that. And then you put the graph. It is so obvious that these 5 grains take 3 to 4 hours to release glucose. It's obvious for me that if they are kept on these 5 grains, their glucose content in the blood starts decreasing day by day. So within 3 to 4 months, they are starting to gain over the all the problems that they have created for themselves by eating rice and wheat.
Yeah.
So very simple test. And so after connecting these dots, I was so sure that the carbohydrate to fiber ratio, the single digit, is what is doing the trick in these 5 grains. RTT test doesn't mean anything. It has to really heal if it heals or not. So we are now having a clue whether of any grain you can take, actually any new grains you get it. This is the simple test. In a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, you can grade it where it is.
Right.
And in a matter of 15-20 days, you can say whether this grain is good for you or not good for you. That's the kind of confidence which I have developed. And on top of it, we feed basically gangrenous patients, because gangrenous patients means the bone marrow is completely contaminated with a lot of pathogenic bacteria or viruses. It's not healing, basically, because the sugar content was too much. And that's why I keep telling you, if you have sugar in your blood, it creates hell a lot of problems, autoimmune diseases and microbial imbalance. Everything happens. If you don't have glucose balance, all the other imbalances start setting. Hormonal imbalance happens. Everything happens. So it is ultimate. If you have a gangrenous patient, means this fellow is in real trouble. So if we can cure that fellow, that means we can reverse a lot of things. And that is the test. And that's how I checked on Little Millet and these 5 millets.
Yeah.
Little Millet works wonders with this kind of condition. So that means this fiber of Little Millet can clean up the bone marrow. The same with Kodo millet. These two millets have the magic of cleaning the bone marrow and the hormone imbalance corrections. So wonderful. So this is how I did all these experiments. This is the thought process, higher theory behind it. So you need to do experiment. Only then it becomes science. And how many patients? Not 100, thousands. We have done now thousands. And as I told you, we have been getting the proof of what I am talking from various parts of the world, various parts of the world, not just some particular lab. It's all over the world. Just day before yesterday, that their HbA1c was 10, and now they're having 6 in a matter of 4 months. And his finger was gangrenous, and now it is completely out. And he has not seen me. I have not seen him. I have not met him. He has not met me. Message that I have seen your PDFs and followed this, and we are fine.
Wonderful. If we are eating foods that are missing the fiber or are high in sugar, then our body is constantly getting an overload of sugar, which our pancreas then have to continuously clean and store away by releasing insulin. These are the steps that lead to pre-diabetic and diabetic conditions. Which of the foods here are you eating most of the time? Dr. Khadar's studies also show that each of the variety of small millets cleans a different part of the body. So foxtail millet cleans our nerves, joints and lungs. Kodo millet purifies the blood, the bone marrow and the lymphatic system. Barnyard millet cleans all our soft tissues, liver, kidney, bladder, endocrine glands, and brown top millet with the highest fiber content of all cleans all the parts that foxtail millet does and the digestive system. Little millet cleans the genital organs and resolves all associated problems. That is why, depending on the condition in his protocol, some variety of small millets are eaten more than the others. But because our body is interconnected, all organs have to be cleaned out. And that is why he recommends all the 5 small millet varieties have to be eaten. The other way that small millets help is by providing food for the growth of a variety of gut flora. These are microbes that live in our body and are doing many important functions for us.
The advantage is that even sick people can become healthy. And so if you want to be healthy, you have to eat these wonderful grains only. And if you continue to eat rice and wheat, even healthy fellows are going to become sick. And that's what is happening all over the world.
So now we understand that it is the quality and the quantity of fiber present in small millets that does not allow sugar spikes to happen. The quality and quantity of fiber present in wheat and rice is substantially less. Even if we eat the whole grain, it breaks down fast in our body and leads to an increase in the blood sugar levels. So we have to control the amount of wheat and rice that we eat. On the other hand, with small millets, the fiber in the grain is where the control rests. The fiber never allows a sudden rush of glucose. It's always slow and steady. So the pancreas are never overworked or stressed. This means that we can eat the small millets, the carbohydrate, to our satisfaction and never experience a spike. So how do we cook them? Small millets are actually very versatile. You can cook them any which way that you cook rice and wheat. So you can make them as rice, you can bake them, you can ferment them, you can make traditional Indian recipes like dosa, bread and idli. The only care that we have to take is that we need to soak them because they are so rich in fiber. So it's important that we soak them for about 8 hours. And because we need the fiber, it's also important that we take care when we buy them, making sure that they are unpolished grains. There's a way to recognize if the small millets are polished or unpolished, and there is a video that we have made, a link to which has been provided in the description.
And now, with all the information being spread all over the planet from many different continents, a lot of who have healed themselves have been contacting me and messaging me, and really it's a pleasure to be in this kind of situation where I, corner of small place, India, I'm able to help so many sick people without even seeing them or touching them. Just the information about these wonderful grains is all that we need. And so everyone should get onto this agenda of making the grains as future food for human race.
With small millets, nature has put the control in the food itself. As Dr. Khadar says, lo and behold,